Well, hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Pursuit. I'm Pastor Rick, and today I am joined by our worship pastor, Pastor Nate Sexton. Usually we have Harper or Pam with us, but they are very super busy today. Pam is running our Pursuit for Kids box pickup, and Pastor Harper's in a meeting right now. So I got the best. I did not scrape the bottom of the barrel.
Or you were really desperate.
No. I just scraped the bottom of the barrel. I finally got Nate in here. That's what I've been going for. And Pastor Nate, you have been a viewer of The Pursuit. You share with me, you've watched some of these episodes. Our goal for these is for our people of our church to be in small groups where they're assembling together, talking about these things, or parents, mom, dad, having family, quiet time with their kids throughout the week. We always like to start with an icebreaker to get stuff moving. And we have been really scraping to find some good icebreakers. But I want to try this one out because I know very similarity. We have, both of us, we have 3 kids in the home, even have the same dynamic, 2 boys and a girl. And for us, we are superhero fans in our family. So here's my question, and size you up with this one. If you could pick one superpower to have, what would it be and why?
All right, well, my kids love superheroes as well. They can't decide on which superhero they want to be. They're constantly changing and asking questions. And,
Okay.
But for myself, my first thought is going to flying. I always think
Okay.
flying, I'll dream at night about I can fly, and then I wake up and I'm like, so super disappointed. And it's like when I'm dreaming, I figured out the trick. It was just one thing I was forgetting or missing,
That's awesome.
that everybody. But I think if you only have flying, I'd kill myself.
Why is that?
So, if you crash into something.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So I've changed over the years to indestructibility or bulletproofness.
Okay.
Because then I could just jump out of an airplane and feel like I'm flying,
Okay.
or throw a jetpack on. I mean, I don't know, something.
Yeah.
But if I couldn't, if my skin was like steel,
Yeah.
then I think
That'd be
that would
good.
be the one. I think I could improv on some of the other
So
superheroes.
you got us thinking here because
Powers.
you mentioned flying. Be like, but I might kill myself because I might not have navigation skills. Like, okay, I didn't even think about that one. But see, here's where I'm thinking. I like the indestructibility, like steel skin, but then how do you shave? Nothing, right? How does Superman shave? That's the question.
Yeah, that's
I would
true.
like to know. Well, for me, I have thought not too much about this, but I think for me it'd be like the Flash, the super speed.
Yeah.
Because not just you'd be able to travel real quick, but also if you ever watch the Flash or read the comics, everything Flash does, it's like he can speed read. He can he can do things like make breakfast fast. He can write fast. I mean, it's like
You get a lot of knowledge.
I would
right there.
love. You can get a lot of. I have like 3 PhDs by the end of the week. I think that'd be really cool. So I think the Flash. I think where I would
That's
go.
cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
All right. Well, take some time with your group. Have this icebreaker where if you could pick one superpower, what would it be, and why would you pick it? All right. As we begin to discuss this week's sermon here at Salem Baptist Church, it was a different week. Pastor Kivett even introed it. Said if you're visiting or if you have been here with us for a while, we're going away from something we normally do. This week, Pastor Kivett shared with us his vision, the vision of the Strategic Planning Committee and the vision of church leadership for where we can go from here, what we can do to fulfill the Great Commission that God has given us to fulfill in Matthew 28. Now, at the very beginning, he gave us some history of Salem. And if you're a longtime member here, you've heard this before. If you are newer, you may have heard this before, but you may have heard it for the first time this week when you watch the video, whether you're in the service or not, where Pastor Kivett kind of went down a rough, quick overview of the history of Salem. So I want to ask this question for our listeners and to you, Pastor Nate. When Pastor Kivett was going through the history of Salem, what event or events stuck out to you the most?
So I don't know if I got sidetracked or distracted at the first one, and that's the only one I remember, or if it stuck out to me the most. No, the first one there, Sam Morton, taking the initiative, I think, is what stood out to me the most. So I don't think it was mentioned this morning, but I had heard the history before, as you mentioned, and I believe, if I'm right, that he would pass through this area on his way to his own church, and he saw a bunch of kids not having church or going to church or anything like that, and he then decided that these kids needed to be reached and took the initiative upon himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know the backstory there, but I just think it was neat. Instead of, it wasn't a church that started it. He saw the need himself, and he fulfilled it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's pretty cool. Anytime being in ministry over 10 years, we hear a lot, you know, of, hey, this would be cool, this would be cool, this would be cool. And oftentimes people don't want to do it. You know, they want somebody else. They come up with an idea or a need, and it's a genuine need. It's a genuine, yes, we see it as well, but we can't add one more thing to our plate. And I just love his heart and his passion for those kids and how he said, I'll do it.
Yeah. And it was a lot of history we went through. A couple things I noticed was, I'll just do one at the beginning with, the current building we have, the sanctuary that we were meeting in, was built a month before I was born.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
I think I'm sitting there going, I was just like, well, that's a pretty young building. But I thought, yeah, well, it's young for people, not too young for buildings. So anyway, one of the things that stuck out to me was something that wasn't even mentioned. As I was looking at the history, where I show up at Salem is only at the last page at the 2000s when my wife and I started coming here. So we were only there for 3 blips, really. But then when it really hit me was my birthday did not appear in that history. Now here's what I mean by that. And I know it sounds like funny, but here's what I mean by it. I'm just a blip. I was listening to that history going, I'm just a blip. I'm not even a blip. I wasn't even recorded on the history here at Salem. But my prayer is that my grandkids will see this history. You know, my great-grandkids will see this history. And they won't see, here's where great-grandpa was. But they'll see, what will they see? Will they see the time I was here, did we fulfill the Great Commission? And that's something that stuck out to me. I even kind of looked down at the row because there was my kids down there, my wife and my children, and I thought, how are they going to, when they get up and do this history, when it's their turn, how are they going to see us at this time? It's not about me. It's not about my preferences. It's not about what I think is right or wrong here. This is about what God wants for this place, and did I do what God asked me to do? This was on social media, and not a lot of times I don't pitch social media. This one I will. A person I follow said, when we get to heaven, Jesus won't be so concerned about our legacy. He'll be concerned, well done, good and faithful servant. And I thought, that's what I want to be. I want to be faithful right now. I want to be faithful in this moment where God has put me for such a time as this, so that the generations that come after me can say, that generation followed Christ.
I like how individualized that is when you say, you know, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Like, each of us are going to give an account for how we respond and our actions.
Yeah.
You know, not so much the actions of everybody else. Right. Yeah.
I think that's good.
Cool.
Yeah. We'll take some time right now with your group, and if you didn't watch this week's sermon, I take the opportunity to pause this video, maybe go back and watch it so you can see this. But when you look at the history of Salem Baptist Church, what sticks out to you the most? Well, further on in Pastor Kivett's sermon this week, he shared from Matthew 28, the Great Commission, which is a passage we're all very familiar with. We know that's the mission of the church. He then went to Ephesians chapter 3 to focus on that it's our mission as a church to glorify God and to display the manifold wisdom of God throughout all the rulers and generations. And then we started talking about where we are right now and the things that we hold on to, the things that we have, and the things that keep us maybe. As our strategic planning committee talked about, what are the weaknesses that Salem has? And you and I are both a part of that strategic planning committee, and it was difficult to assess yourself, to say, all right, give me some of your weaknesses. I mean, just like when you're in a job interview, people would ask you, share with me some of your weaknesses. You don't want to, because I want to get this job. But it's very hard to see your weaknesses. And so one of the things that were brought up in the meeting is a lot of times we have focused on things. They're not bad things. I mean, no time in the strategic planning committee and no time in that sermon did it say, okay, and the church started sinning horribly, or we started neglecting this. No, it was just we got focused on things, and they're not bad things. They're just maybe not the things that, or maybe we got distracted from the things we need to get focused on. So I kind of got my head rolling in that question, my mind rolling with what can be personally between you and me. What can be some of the good things that get in our way of us personally fulfilling the Great Commission in our own lives?
Yeah, so the question is, what are good things that get in the way for me personally fulfilling the Great Commission? And a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you ask me that, I think one of the things I struggle with is the balance of, and I think others would as well, would be family. And just sometimes doing the justifying, well, my family is part of the Great Commission, and that is absolutely right, and that's absolutely correct. But one of the things I always struggle with is, the balance of that, family and ministry, and putting those two things together. And I think one of the things I've learned is taking my family along to do ministry. And so it doesn't have to be one or the other. And there are times, evenings where I'm with my family and they're my only priority, but it doesn't have to be a one or the other. But sometimes we sit there and, or at least I, will try to justify or whatever, or maybe I get out of balance there. But I don't know, for me, that's a good thing, and it is an important thing, but it doesn't, my family's not the only ministry there. It's not the world.
Yeah, they're your first ministry.
They feel like my world, right? Your world is your family, and they should not be forgotten. It should not be
absolutely
neglected, and they should be a priority, but not at the expense of fulfilling the Great Commission. Go ye into all the world. And so I just love that my kids enjoy it too, and so it's fun to do ministry with my family.
And I like how you brought that up. It's not that you're neglecting family, it's that you're bringing them along. There's a lot of things you could say with that your kids are seeing. This is how mom and dad do ministry, and they want us to be a part of it. You talk about going on mission trips, but getting to take your family with you so they experience it as well. I think that's a great thing. My answer to this one kind of goes back to the history that we talked about. You'd mentioned Sam Morton in our last question about he saw a need, and then he went to meet that need personally rather than going to his church to meet that need. A little bit more of the history as we continue is that he actually did go to his church and ask for a donation, a gift of money to plant this mission, the Salem Baptist mission idea. And it was voted down.
Wow.
It was voted down in their church. They said, no, this is not something that we at this time want to do. Now,
that's a good thing.
Right. But it's not.
He's asking for a good thing.
Right. He's asking for a good thing. And I don't want to vilify that church because I don't think that church was there going, we don't care about these kids. I think they probably saw something else that they could use that for that was good. But what I love about the rest of that story is after the meeting, and I think it started even that night as people were leaving the meeting, individuals came up to Mr. Morton and gave him money and personal donations. So rather than being a church-wide, they gave money out of their pocket, and that was what he was able to use to build what he built. So I think that's an example of, I'm sure that church didn't see this as a bad thing. They just had other things that they had to do.
Other ministries.
Other ministries they had to do, but God still worked to bring about this mission for these kids. So with me personally, you mentioned family. For me, if I'm not careful, I can get caught up in the business of ministry. Now, what I mean by that is not finances and figures and all that, more of, all right, how's this ministry going to run? How's this, the details. I can get focused on the details of making sure everything's going to run well, that I forget the ministry itself. There's an example I use a lot where I was at a coffee shop. This was a couple years ago, and I was writing an article for our church on sharing our faith. It was going to become a sermon series. And I'm writing, and I'm surrounded by people, and I'm just writing about how to share your faith. And it was like at that moment, I'm like, what am I doing? So I just kind of closed the laptop and sat there with my coffee. And God opened up a conversation. It was actually neat. There was a guy who was right beside me. Once I closed the laptop, he was reading Hebrew, like the language. And I just finished my first or second year of Hebrew. And so it's like, that's interesting. And I started talking to him. And it led to a conversation where I was able to eventually, because he was reading out of Isaiah. And I was able to share my faith because he wasn't a Christian. He was studying it for his own class.
That sounds like a God door.
It was totally a God door. I mean, it was everything but understand what thou readest was the next thing. But I was able to share my faith, and I'd love to tell you the guy came to faith in Christ, but he didn't. A phone call happened, and he got pulled away. But it was an opportunity. And so the good thing is I'm going to write an article to preach a sermon about sharing your faith. But it got in the way of the opportunity to share my faith. And so that's for me. I got to be careful to walk that line of making sure how much of this is I'm doing the work of ministry and how much of this is I'm doing the business of ministry. We'll take time now with your group, with your family, to discuss what could be the good things in your life that personally keep you or maybe sidetrack you from fulfilling the Great Commission in your own life.
I hope you guys enjoyed talking there, but before we leave, we want to give you guys a challenge. And we've been challenged as a church to commit to engaging in intentional prayer for God's will to be done at Salem as we take these initial steps to see what He wants for us. So I want to, again, just challenge us to intentionally pray, whether that's setting an alarm. I know there's different prayer apps as well that just constantly remind you, but it's not going to happen by accident. We're not going to accidentally pray for this. So would you commit? Would you challenge yourself and challenge your family? Find that accountability person or whatever you need to do, but intentionally pray for our church. Pray for our church to know God's will and to then follow God's will. Sometimes we can know it, but it's hard to do it.
Right.
And so, and just, again, also to open our eyes that we may see, but then beyond that, open our eyes to see what maybe is holding us individually back. But there's a prayer guide for those who were here on Sunday. You received one of those prayer guides. Work through that prayer guide. And if you didn't get one, if you weren't able to be here, email the church office or give us a call, and we'll make sure that we get that to you.
Right. Well, we're so glad you're able to join us on another episode of The Pursuit. As always, you can watch previous episodes of The Pursuit by clicking the link on your screen. You can also look at past sermons, specifically in our Death to Life series in Ephesians, by clicking the link provided. And be sure to subscribe by clicking the icon on your screen so that you can be notified for new content once it's released. We love you guys. We look forward to seeing you real soon.